Welcome, and hopefully you're having a wonderful day. Fortunately, you are stuck with me again. Uh, Marco will be back hopefully next week. He unfortunately had a few more doctor's appointments, but nevertheless, we do have Jacob Prash,
Here he is. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
and this week we have Sandy Simpson,
Hi, everybody.
and also, of course, from down under we have Davey. How are you doing?
Pretty good, thanks, and good to be with you all again. Hard to believe another week's gone by.
You are absolutely spot on. And finally, Ilan joining us from Israel. You're going to stick around a bit?
Yes, I'll stick around for a bit. If my eyes close and my head starts to nod, I'm just kidding.
We will show you much grace, brother.
Yeah, just cut the video feed. I'll do that. Yeah,
I'll do my best. I'm wearing a few hats here, but I will do my best to do that. Jacob, do you have any upcoming announcement or speaking engagements?
Yes. Apologetically, the England conference is completely booked. We can't take any more bookings. A very few places left in Scotland at Gartmore, which is next month, October. You can book that through the Morio website itinerary page. We're still taking some bookings, but there's no more en-suites left. It's almost filled up completely as well. I'm due to speak at Crossways Fellowship, a Morio affiliated fellowship in Bournemouth next weekend, next Saturday and Sunday. Details are on the Morio website and on the Morio itinerary page. If you're in the south coast of England area, Bournemouth, Southampton, that area, we'll look forward to seeing you.
Okay, well, with that, we will get started. Let's begin with a major announcement. Charlie Kirk's wife is taking over Turning Points. Following the sudden assassination of Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Points USA, the organization's board unanimously appointed his widow, Erica Kirk, as CEO and chair of the board. Erica, former Miss Arizona and media entrepreneur, has pledged to continue her late husband's mission while also bringing her own vision to the conservative youth movement. Jacob, give me a little bit of your take on this.
If she's purely functioning as a chairwoman and in some manner of executive oversight with her board, to this I do not object. She is an experienced businesswoman, and I would not have a problem. But she cannot step into her husband's shoes. A recently widowed young woman with a baby and a little girl who's 3 years old going to college campuses with the potential of violence, hostility, even people would want to kill her as they murdered her husband. She cannot enter into that kind of a sphere of debate on campuses and things like this. That would be completely inappropriate. I would see that as an emotionally triggered response during bereavement and an act of defiance of the radical left that, while well motivated, is extremely badly advised. Now, if it is purely an executive position for some kind of executive function oversight of a board, that's one thing. But she should not try to step into her husband's shoes. There's not many people, male or female, who can do what he did. There would not be many capable of doing what he did as a debater. On the other hand, a woman with a little baby and a little girl and going into that kind of hostile environment, into a nest of vipers, it would be very badly advised. I think the board should have delayed any decision until after the funeral, certainly. I don't agree with it, despite my profound sympathy and compassion for her as a widow, and despite my admiration of her integrity and her courage. She cannot wear her husband's shoes.
Sandy, let me go to you real quick. What are some of the challenges you would think she would be facing asserting legitimacy while avoiding just the problems that come when you take over an organization that really was on the shoulders of her husband.
Yeah. But did you ask me that question?
I did.
Okay. I totally agree with Jacob's take on it. When you've got a family and stuff, and they don't have a father left, I think she needs to be thinking about that first and foremost, and they need to find somebody else to fill in for this guy. Now, there are some pretty good people out there that could possibly do this if they took it on as something that they felt that the Lord wanted them to do. But yeah, I think she really, she ought to be a administrator, or something like that, and fill in that way.
Let me follow up with a question just to the panel. Who are some legitimate people that could take on the role of being the person that's out there on the front line, asking the questions, doing the debates, putting themselves at risk, all things considered? Are there any people that you guys can think of that would fill that role well?
Well, Ben Shapiro already has a job and he's not a believer yet.
Yeah.
So, but he is a good debater. He is one person who would have those debating skills. Unfortunately, he's not a believer either, but he certainly has the debating skills. And although he keeps his homosexual identity to himself, what's his Douglas?
Douglas Murray.
Douglas Murray. He would have those kinds of debating skills, absolutely. But again, people with those skills are few and far between. And to find a saved believer who would be available to assume that position is something else.
Anyone else have any thoughts on who could replace Mr. Kirk?
What's the guy's name who's on the 5 and has his own show?
Not Gutfeld, you mean, do you?
Not Gutfeld, the other guy. Can't remember his
Jesse
name.
Waters.
Jesse Waters. I think he could probably handle that.
I think he's a little bit old. I think they need somebody very, very young.
They do need somebody who at least comes off as young,
Yeah. Also, he's something of a satirist. Jesse Waters is something of a satirist. He satirizes the left. There's a comical aspect to his debating style. But I would like to see somebody who is a born-again believer.
Absolutely. I think that should be kind of a requirement for TP USA. And
yes.
I do have to applaud this. At least we don't have Candace Owens as a potential replacement for Mr. Kirk. That would be a nightmare.
I can't think of anyone who I once respected so much, for whom I now think so little.
Absolutely. Just to transition, her last podcast, she was talking about how Israel was involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Just the crazy anti-Semitism that we live in is
the moment she
nuts.
converted to Roman Catholicism, she seems to have lost her mind.
Yes.
Well, you have to be out of your mind to accept some of their practices and doctrines.
Yes. So I think the out of the mind started even before. Yeah.
Yeah, there had to be something wrong with her for some time.
Moving on, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Charlie Kirk's assassination, because this is a little bit disturbing to me that the FBI, which, let's just go to the beginning of this year, lost a lot of credibility with the open and shut case of the Epstein suicide, I guess. And now it's an open and shut case, even though we have some interesting side notes to the investigation of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Call it a patsy, call it a distraction, call it a disturbed man seeking attention. Let's talk a little bit about George Zinn. For those that don't know, George Zinn was the man that we saw instantly once the assassination was done, being arrested. And what's interesting is he went up and said, "I shot him, now shoot me," to the authorities. Now, one of the other bullet points that I will bring up is the fact that when the police took him into custody, his phone had child sexual abuse images on the phone.
Yes.
So my question is, why would someone like George Zinn falsely claim responsibility for shooting him if he didn't commit it? Why would he do that?
Yeah. First of all, an expression of his own hatred, just wanting to identify with the killer, who was a proxy for his own alter ego, if you want to call it that way, at a psychological level. That would be one. But there's also the question of mental health. While people who are given to child pornography or things of this nature are certainly evil, it's hard for me to not see them as somehow mentally disturbed. Criminal insanity. People who are into pedophilia and things like this, I regard pedophilia as criminal insanity. There must be something mentally wrong with such people, as well as something criminally wrong with such people.
Yeah. And also, apart from that, it's the old sort of 15 minutes of fame kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, looking for to be infamous.
Let me ask you a question then, Sandy, because this is what's wrong. Kind of like I'm having cognitive dissonance with this. Do you think his actions genuinely allowed Tyler Robinson to get away from evade authorities in that day? Do you think his actions possibly were a distraction for the authorities?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the situation to know.
You need some evidence. You can only speculate. You need some evidence.
Yeah.
Well, we're already talking about the exploitation photos on his phone, but it's strange again that what does that have to do with him being the killer of, or claiming to be the killer of Charlie Kirk? Just seems odd.
It may have been divine providence that he said something so stupid, because it enabled the police to arrest someone and find that kind of evidence of criminal pornography. So,
yeah.
And I'm glad he said it, because it caused him to be apprehended as a sex criminal.
Absolutely.
Well, one interesting aspect to all of these things that are going on are they're almost all linked to somebody who's perverted.
That's right.
That's some correct. Kind of sexual deviancy,
yeah. That's correct. The kind of ironic thing is, okay, the media may have been upfront with that, but the thing is, they tried to suppress Tyler's trans partner.
Yeah.
Kind of, they tried to really downplay that issue and what was written on the gun and all the rest of it. So, yeah, that's kind of ironic.
Yeah, that kind of leads into our next topic. Jacob, the left has gone nuts. It always was kind of mentally deranged, but what Montel Williams said, how this was an act of love, how we must respect Tyler Robinson. I mean, are they reaching for straws? What's
He's
going
one of
on
several.
here?
He's probably the most famous of the ones who've said this. They've presented it as a love story. Montel Williams said his motive was not political, but the person he loved, the object of his affections. It's like as if it was the woman you love or something, whatever. The object of his affections, in a romantic sense, was assailed by the values represented by Charlie Kirk. And he was motivated by this ambition to protect the sanctity and dignity of his affection for his male lover. This is what Montel Williams said, making him a victim. It's a love story. It's a tragic love story. Montel Williams is a sick person. He's a vile, disgusting person. I think he was a former boyfriend of of Harris, wasn't he?
Yes, actually, he was. I believe before the mayor of San Francisco, it was Montel was
Yeah,
one of the
that would
boyfriends.
explain a lot himself.
It may well have been a motivation for him to, because maybe his girlfriend slash boyfriend slash whatever it is, was complaining about Kirk. And so he got all riled up and went and shot him. That may be part of the deal, but that doesn't excuse anything,
No,
not at all.
no, it doesn't. And as I was saying in the pre-show, it reminds me of when Alexander the Great was talking about the sacred band of Thebes, who were all warriors, homosexual warriors, lover with lover, basically protecting their back in battle, and how it was beautiful, their martial prowess to die together. It does remind me of that. Militant homosexuality is something that is very concerning if we take into consideration Tyler Robinson is willing to kill someone for basically insulting his lover.
God was pretty
pervert in Nashville. That pervert in Nashville shot the kids in the school.
Yes,
he's not the first one.
No, it's we've had many examples of this.
God was a tad concerned about militant homosexuality. That's why he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about militant. They went after angels, of all things.
Even after they were blind.
Exactly. Sick
world we live. Talking about someone who else is sick, let's talk a little bit of, we've seen something shameful in the fallout of Charlie Kirk's assassination, people gloating over his death. Even Jimmy Kimmel mocking and twisting the truth. He's now off air, corporate sponsors fled, and some demand he donate to Kirk's family. But here's the deeper danger. Freedom of speech is being weaponized. The same people who cheered Charlie Kirk's silencing now cry censorship when backlash comes their way. And friends, this matters, because how we treat free speech today is how the gospel will be treated tomorrow. So to begin with, should someone like Jimmy Kimmel be punished by the government, or just lose his sponsors and be completely unmarketable, in you guys' opinion?
First of all, his critics said nothing, and not that I'm a fan of Tucker Carlson, but when Tucker Carlson was fired for telling the truth about COVID, not that I like Tucker Carlson anymore, they were all for it. But when it's Jimmy Kimmel, they're all against it. It's the usual hypocrisy. But to see a degenerate moral slob like Schumer decrying his being fired, who is going to make a joke out of a murder of someone who, even other homosexuals who knew him, like Dave Rubin, said he was a gracious person and he did not hate homosexuals. A man with a wife and a little baby and a little 3-year-old girl, to make that the subject of late night comedy. Look, the left is trying to politicize his dismissal. They are citing some mergers that require FAA, Federal Communications Commission, approval, and saying that they're pandering to the Trump administration because they require the approval of Trump for some of these mergers. What about all the mergers that were approved by the Obama administration with Comcast and NBC? Not only that, but Disney, who's the head honcho, are Democrat. They are not conservative in any sense. But let's look at the real issue. This is what they're not saying. They're politicizing it. It's not Disney. It's not Trump. It's Nielsen, the Nielsen ratings. Television is about ratings. Ratings are about money, advertising revenue. It's a money game. Kimmel was a talentless loser. His ratings were very low, lower than Colbert. Lower than Colbert. The guy was a talentless loser. He was a bum. He was only there as a political stooge and mouthpiece for the left wing of the Democratic Party. Well, it's all left wing now. That's the only reason he survived. But in terms of the marketplace, the guy was a loser. He was a bum. He was talentless. His ratings were in the rubbish bin. He couldn't deliver the goods. People began complaining, and it simply gave the network a reason to get rid of him. It's about money. Somebody like Rachel Maddow, she still has enough ratings that she probably could have survived it. I don't know if she'll survive long term, but he couldn't. He doesn't have the ratings. He doesn't have the talent. That's what it comes to. It's about ratings. It's about money. It's not about politics. They had an ambition to get rid of him anyway because he was costing them money and his ratings were too low, even lower than Colbert.
Yeah.
The guy's a loser. The guy was a loser. And in that business, you're either a winner or you're a bum. He was a bum.
Yeah. You know,
yet they kept him on.
One big concern for me is that all of these people making light of this murder, and in fact, a number of these murders it's creating a movement.
Yes.
I posted an article by Robert Spencer of PJ Media who says now leftists are posting hit lists of people they want to murder next. He says a lot of concerned people are sending me screenshots and dozens more. I appreciate the concern, but I'm not surprised, and I won't be going into hiding. We have to be louder and bolder now than ever, or else the demons who killed Charlie win, and they cannot win. The left is evil. The left is a gang of terrorists. If you have any lingering doubt about that, consider this. They were celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk, but now leftists are making these celebrations look practically innocent. Hit lists have begun to appear in social media. Bloodthirsty leftists indulge their fantasies about which of their designated enemies they would like to see murdered next. And yes, there's no doubt whatsoever that the people who are openly displaying their bloodlust in this way think all the while that they occupy the moral high ground.
Correct. That is correct.
It kind of reminds me of how Islam celebrates the death of innocent people. Yes. I wonder if that's coincidence.
No, it's not. It's all the same demonic power back of these things. Same demonic power.
Absolutely.
By the way, when I say that employ the term bum, I mean it in the for our listeners and viewers in Great Britain and Australia, New Zealand. When I say bum, I mean it in the American sense.
Yeah. Well, one thing you said last week too, Jay, when you talked about the two witnesses, like how it's in a lot of ways the celebration kind of thing is a precursor. We are going to see it a lot more and more. One thing, though, with all the censorship kind of thing, we've got our e-safety officer. She's been trying to have the footage of the Charlie Kirk assassination taken off platforms or unavailable for people here in Australia. One thing that gives me a little bit of hope too that they won't shut us down completely with social media is because it says when that happens too, the whole world will watch and see and they'll cheer and all the rest of it too. So I do think these things are going to happen more and more. And that hit list thing, I did see that, Sandy, and that is, unbelievable. But that's where they're getting to it, and that article by Robert Spencer is really good.
It is somewhat frustrating to understand that there is a list. I mean, do we as conservative have a list of people that we wish death on? I don't think so. We would much rather talk and try to actually bring them to our side. As Christians, we want to do apologetics.
Yeah, that was the approach of Charlie Kirk, so they murdered him.
Yeah, I think they know our greatest weapon is prayer, and it is the word of God, because that is the power to change lives and all the rest of it. That's why there's so much legislation on prayer going on at the moment. It's kind of like I'm waiting for Marco to get back and to get well. We want to do a video on the war that's going on in prayer, like what's going on, where they're trying to ban outdoor prayer in like Quebec and Canada. They're legislating what prayer is lawful and what prayer isn't lawful here. Because they know that's our heavy, what do you call it, artillery, prayer and that kind of thing. We have a list of people we pray for. They don't want us to pray for them. That's our hit list. Our hit list is the prayer list.
As constant as it has been from people on the left celebrating, a lot of them celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination, another trend that has gone viral is many people who have been irreligious on the right are now saying, I am going to church because Charlie Kirk can no longer go to church. Sandy, we talked a little bit about this, and let me ask you a question. A lot of people are now going back to the church for the first time probably in many years. And what is the church what is the church going to be like that they're going back to? And can we expect to see a huge revival from this, all things considered?
I don't think so. I'm sorry. I'm very skeptical about that. That's not the reason to be going back to church. I mean, you need to be repentant and recognize that you need the teaching and the Bible and everything else. You don't need to be slain in the spirit. You don't need the rock music and all the stuff that is in the churches now. And then you find a lot of these people, when they're talking about going back to church, they're talking about going back to the Catholic Church.
Yes.
Whoa. And Fox is very, very influential in that because so many of them are Catholics. And they're always having Catholic priests on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jacob, what can we expect from the Christians the potential Christians that are going back? Is evangelical church, the churches of today in modernity, are they going to give them true doctrine? Are they going to give them the word of God? Or are they going to filter
what
it?
we have seen is because of the moral attack on the family, because of transgenderism, and because of the genocidal atrocity of abortion, well-meaning born-again Christians and pastors and other Christian leaders, because they are in a desperate fight over abortion, transgenderism, and indoctrinating children, the genital mutilation of children, it becomes a Hitler and Stalin alliance. Followed by a Churchill and Stalin alliance. When the Luftwaffe was attacking London and Liverpool and Coventry, Churchill couldn't choose his friends. He knew Stalin was no good. He knew Stalin was no better than Hitler, but he had to do what he had to do under those circumstances. I think that mentality has permeated the church. Mm-hmm. So I've seen people who mean well, like friends of mine, like Jack Hibbs. He will forge links with even Dominionists or people with very wrong doctrine simply because they share his moral convictions and see the need for yes, being salt and light and a political activism to try to protect the children and to try to reverse abortion and things like this. This has begun with the abortion movement. When evangelicals were making alliances with the Roman Catholic Church because the Roman Catholic Church said they're against abortion. Well, there's a convent, just one convent in Tuam in Ireland. They found the skeletons of nearly 800 babies buried in back of the convent. Yeah, the Catholic Church is against the murder of the unborn. Let the babies be born, then we'll kill them. You know what I mean? It's a misplaced alliance. World War II was no longer over when Churchill warned of the Iron Curtain. Too late. It was too late. Truman did what he did, and that was it. Stalin was empowered by the Truman administration. It's the same kind of thing. Yeah. Because of this battle, this not just a moral battle, and a spiritual battle, certainly, but they're going after children. They're states. that will allow the genital mutilation of children surgically without parental consent.
Yes.
In the heat of this battle, you can't choose your friends and allies. That is what undergirds a lot of these ecumenical overtures. I understand the reason for it, but it's not right.
That was especially ecumenical is a perfect way of saying it, because I remember back when they were doing all the marches for Jesus, that's when a lot of this kind of ramped up, getting together with the Catholics and marching, because we can be together with them, on this issue, because they're against abortion. But then, of course, it crossed more lines to the point where, we can do evangelism together.
That's
I'm
right.
going, wait a minute. We're not on the same page at all with that. And, so I saw a lot of that happen, with these Calvary Chapel guys and stuff. They fell right into it.
And the devil's agents like Chuck Colson got in and did the work Satan had for them to do.
Yeah,
I totally agree with what both of you are saying. It's kind of like, I know a lot of people have been encouraged by people, in the streets, proclaiming Christ and all the rest of it. But the thing is, I'm thinking, okay, what Christ, what Jesus? Because at the moment, they're united on political causes. They're not being united by common doctrine. They're not being united, it's not in the true faith. And so a false unity is always going to bring, it's always going to be the false way. It's only going to expedite the road to Babylon all the more.
Yes.
Bring about, they'll embrace a false Christ this way.
Correct.
And so, I'm very concerned by that. And I did see that, what was it, Timothy Cardinal Dolan, he's now wanting to nominate Charlie Kirk for sainthood. So you can see that ecumenical.
Oh, wow.
But,
wow.
I hate to say anything good about the devil, but he certainly knows his business.
Yeah, that's for sure. But, I mean, you have to do 2 miracles to be a saint. How's that going to happen?
Yeah. Don't worry. They fixed it up for John Paul II,
I think there's a very low bar for miracles in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it's like
I think it's extremely low.
I can do this weird thing with my elbow. That's one miracle.
Yes. A moral degenerate who protects pedophile clergy at the expense of not protecting Roman Catholic children from them and gets away with it, and they call him the Holy Father. That is a miracle. That is a miracle.
I'll ask the panel, alliance with the Roman Catholic Church, it strikes me as being very much kind of like Ahab and Jehoshaphat. You have a false kind of unity with a person that is not really preaching the gospel, i.e. the Catholic Church, and you have someone who's a sincere believer trying to link up with them. And I think a lot of naive Christian leaders they're not aware of how similar their alliances are to this biblical. This is a very biblical story, and it's teaching a very important lesson. Be careful who you ride in the chariot with.
And unfortunately, it's one.
If you want to, sorry about that, Davey.
Oh,
I was going to give a little advertisement for Jacob because he did a message on this called "Chink in the Armor," and if you want to see a great example of how you apply that story, that's a great video to watch.
Boy, did I get in trouble for it.
David, go ahead.
Oh, no, I totally agree with Sandy. It's just a lot of people do not see the danger of it, but we all know how that ended. And I was going to say, watch that teaching. It's only been recently reposted on Moriel Chapel as one of your favorite 5, Sandy.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I posted it up on my site, and it was posted up on Moriel TV a long time ago because that's the conference that I helped organize in Hawaii, and Jacob was one of the speakers. And yeah, and as I was sitting in the pew in the main Calvary Chapel, and he brings up this teaching and says, "I love Calvary Chapel, I love Chuck Smith, but there's two problems with Calvary Chapel that's going to bring it down. Number one, nepotism, and number two, hanging out with the wrong people." And as soon as I heard that, I thought of two things. First of all, this is absolute prophecy, and they need to listen to this because this is exactly what's going to happen. It's from the Bible. It's happened before. And then the second thing was, he is going to get demonized like you wouldn't believe. And that definitely happened.
Yep. Yep.
They were really mean to him, is all I have to say. But
That's okay.
but that's still a great video, and all of the videos from that conference are excellent. If you ever get a chance, I've got them all up on my site. So
Awesome. I think Jay's back with us. Yes.
Yes.
there he is.
Sorry about that. Had to adjust the camera real quick. Did you get to the breaking news?
No, I was just about to, and then I saw you putting your headphones back on. But I'll let you do it.
So, reaction from the panel, real quick. Breaking news is Donald Trump from Air Force One is calling for Ilhan Omar to be removed from Congress. Thoughts?
She should be denationalized and deported
Yes.
back to East Africa where she belongs.
Yep. Exactly.
And we should find out if she's married to her brother, if she illegally married her brother, because she's a heathen, you know. Somebody's asking a question. Do you consummate your marriage to your brother? You know, they should ask you that question. Did you marry your brother? And is the marriage consummated? The left lets her get away with anything. That woman is reprehensible. But J. Paul and Tliab are just as bad.
Yep.
And Alejandro Ortega-Cortez and that Presley from Massachusetts are no better.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe it is confirmed that she married a brother. I was just having a look. Yeah, it is immigration fraud. But yeah, my first reaction was, yeehaw! You know, it's good to have some good news like that.
I'm glad he said it, but I fear, to be honest, that it is just words. I want to see action. I want to see her removed. And can he, as a president, he can call for it, but doesn't the Congress have to actually vote to remove her?
They couldn't even censor her. So I don't,
because of Rhino Republicans, they wouldn't even censor her.
Exactly. So you know what hope is there? And of course they're going to trot out the old, well, you're weaponizing the government, you know, which I always laugh at.
They'll make an Islamophobia issue and a racial issue and so forth.
Exactly. You're all Islamophobes.
Actually, you all saw the footage of her inside the church and what she had to say about Charlie Kirk recently, did you?
I did.
The vulgarity was disgusting.
It's unreal.
Who said what? Ilhan Omar?
Yes.
Yes.
You can't repeat what she said, but she said it in a church. So what's she doing in a church for starters?
Well, yeah. You mean, I assumed that you meant like a mosque.
Nope.
You know,
church.
Supposedly.
You had the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, telling a Christian to get out of town because he took offense at the Christian. A Muslim mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, coming to the United States and telling a Christian he had no right to be in the town. These people need to be denationalized and deported. Radical Muslims who've immigrated should be denationalized and deported, and any who are born in the United States and are citizens should be removed from public office. This should have happened after September 11th. Unfortunately, Bush and Cheney were in the back pocket of the Saudi Arabian government.
Yep.
Elon, I want to get you involved on this question. Now, when you are looking at people like Talib, like Ilhan Omar, in the highest office of the United States government, I mean, what do you think having to deal with the idea of the mind virus of radical Islam where you live? I can't hear you, Elon. You are muted. Still can't hear you. Can't hear you. While Elon tries to work on his audio, hopefully he'll have that soon. I will punt that question to Jacob.
Rephrase
From a person that has lived in Israel, who has seen
yes.
what Islamic fundamentalism does, even the snake that gets in, like, does the Knesset have issues like this where radical Islamists and apologists make it into the highest government
There
office?
are left-wing parties in the Knesset that combine communism with Islamism, similar to the leading Democratic candidate to be mayor of New York City, similar to Muammar Gaddafi, similar to the Ba'ath Party of Saddam Hussein and of Assad in Syria. This combination of communism and Islamic nationalism is not something that's new. The Ba'ath Party was founded upon it. Gamal Abdel Nasser went into a version of it in Egypt. And now you've got somebody trying to be the mayor of New York City. Who's that? The mayor of London is virtually that. Muammar Gaddafi was a version of that. So that is what is happening. In Israel, there are political parties of the extreme left with Arab members of the parliament who have that ideology. They combine Islam with communism. And there's this few self-hating extreme left-wing Jews who are sympathetic.
Yes, there are.
All right, go.
Yeah.
You're here. So, Elon, why don't you go ahead? I'll rephrase the question to you. What does it make you think when you see the infiltration of the United States Congress with such people as Ilhan Omar and Talib?
Yeah, well, you realize there's something wrong with the selection process, don't you? It's horrifying that you get people who are openly treasonous, actually, being allowed to hold seats in the government. That's absolutely appalling. They hate the United States. They've expressed their preference for Somalia, whatever third world dump they come from, and poured scorn on the people they're supposed to serve. So they should be ousted, denaturalized, and booted.
Yes,
Really.
with the blessings of the book. Yeah,
and stripped of their assets, all the illegal assets that they've stolen for this years, because they make a lot of money, which they're not getting from their congressional fee. They're doing it some other way. You know, all of these people that have been in insider trading, all the rest of it, they need to be stripped of their assets and criminalized. Really.
With the blessing of the political establishment, of both parties. Of course, Bush and Cheney, certainly Clinton, certainly Obama, certainly Biden. These people were fished out of a sewer in the Islamic world so they could turn Minnesota into a sewer. And they're doing it with the blessings of George Bush and of Bill Clinton, of Hillary Clinton. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next topic. Jacob, this week marks Donald Trump visiting where you are, the UK. He was wrapped up in a historic second state visit to the United Kingdom this week, marked by pageantry and a huge economic investment deal. Still, there's simmering tensions. Obviously we have King Charles on one hand, also Keir Starmer. Why don't you give us your take on the royal visit this week?
I think it is a case where what is seen is a diversion from what is not being seen.
Yeah.
The pageantry that took place at Windsor Castle grounds and all of this kind of stuff put on a nice show. They made much capital out of the fact that it was the first president who had 2 state visits by invitation to Great Britain, to England. Okay, that's what everybody saw. He stayed in Winfield House, a very salubrious mansion in Regent's Park in London. That is the official residence of the American ambassador. So he actually went into London, but there were not the demonstrations in London that people wanted. It coincided with the Uniting the Kingdom demonstrations,
Yes.
almost. So the demonstrations that took place were not anti-American or anti-Israel. The opposition was little, although a pair of clowns tried to project something about Epstein onto the castle walls. Remember, the Epstein thing is as big a deal in England as it is in the United States because of Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
The scandal, the royal family were key not to participate in. But there were 2 deals taking place. One was it may be a $200 million deal, £150 million technology deal. Great Britain has always punched above its weight in science and technology. It always has. So many of the things that we see were British invented or were joint American-British invented, right down to DNA, Watson and Crick, one American, one Brit. The technology used in video games and supercomputers, that initially came from Great Britain. Now, these things were perfected and further developed in America. Britain has bad corporate management. It does not have good corporate management. It's jobs for the boys, it's the class system, it's Freemasonry, and all this garbage. The people running British industry are not very good. But their scientists and engineers are extremely good. Punching way above their weight. Let's remember something. In the mentality of the people who understand history and who run the world, the Anglo-American Empire, as it were, won the First World War, won the Second World War, and won the Cold War. That's the thinking. The Anglo-American power structure remains the same. Most of the world is still run from Washington, New York, and London. Let no one tell you different. The other centers of power, be they Paris or Beijing or whatever, they're secondary. The real power is still the City of London, Wall Street, and Washington. That's where the real most, and to that I could add Silicon Valley. Okay, that's the real power. Now, the deal was there, but there's more to it than that. I'm sure on the agenda, when they met at Chequers is like what Camp David is in America. Chequers is the British equivalent, the summer vacation home of the prime minister, as it were. What's going to happen in the UN what's going to happen in the UN, the Israel vote was certainly on the agenda. What else is on the agenda is this. Mr. Trump came. The Americans are well aware of the fact that both the Labor Party and the Conservative Party are in peril of losing out to the Reform Party of Nigel Farage, Mr. Lowe, and so forth. There's going to be a transition of power in Britain soon. Mr. Trump, normally, when he would meet with Nigel Farage or somebody like that, he would do it up in Scotland at his golf resort, where his mother is not far. His mother's from the Hebrides. His golf resort is in Turnberry, which is south of Prestwick Airport near Glasgow. He normally meets there when he meets with the opposition. This time he didn't meet with the opposition there. Something is definitely brewing. There's going to be a political change in Great Britain, at least it's being anticipated, that there's going to be a fundamental political change. 2 signs of it are definitely the rise of the Reform Party, and the second is the rise of Uniting the Kingdom, which the media has tried to play down and call them neo-Nazis and extremists, but that was not the case at all. something is happening, a change is coming to Britain. And that is something that precipitated Mr. Trump's visit. He wants to make sure that there's a continuity of the Anglo-American special relationship with the transition that's coming.
Yeah.
The other thing is, in addition to that, the Ukraine is on the table. The latest Russian incursions with drones into Romania and Poland are a bigger issue than is being talked about. Mr. Trump has made some statements that Putin is disappointing him in things. He's showing what some would interpret as a weakness towards Putin, except that those sanctions are doing a job. And a lot of this drone technology is coming from Britain and America. It is eroding the Russian economy by destroying its oil drilling and refining capacity and shipping capacity. I'm sure there was important strategic meetings concerning the Ukraine, concerning Russian incursions into NATO territory, and I'm sure the Middle East was on the agenda. How far will the Starmer government go? But the Americans are anticipating the possibility of a major political and social political change in Britain. And Mr. Trump needs to guarantee the continuity of the special relationship, no matter what the upheavals. No matter what the upheavals. I think that's what underlines it. The rest was pomp and ceremony.
A follow-up question, I guess, for Elon or you, Jacob. Given that what is being called for in the United Kingdom, it's very Trump-like. They want to see mass deportation of illegal immigrants in their country, removed off of not only the social welfare, but removed from the country.
Yes.
How does that fit in with the fact that you have someone like Keir Starmer who absolutely will refuse that? I think it is a shakeup politically of what the leadership of the UK, but what I've heard from the Reform Party, they're not looking to do mass deportations. It's very narrow, the people they want to basically deport.
Well, like Mr. Trump, you begin with criminals, human traffickers, narco-terrorists, okay? In Britain, they want to deal with radicals first, okay? You want to get rid of the most dangerous ones first. So it very much parallels the kind of strategy that you see in the United States. How far it will go is another question. Remember, in the United States, because of abortion, killing 53, 54 million babies, the United States is reliant on immigration, okay? Is reliant on immigration to replenish the population. Japan, China, Russia, and Europe are all in population decline. The United States has an advantage that Hispanics assimilate and Americanize within one generation, okay? They become gringos with a dark complexion within one generation. It's an American advantage. The problem is when you bring in illegal immigrants to do that.
Yeah.
But even the illegal immigrants fulfill a function. When you've got states like California raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour, okay? The only way to beat that is to hire illegal immigrants. So industries and businesses become dependent on illegal immigration, okay? Britain, apart from the fact that the Democrats want these people in to register to vote, in Newsom and California and things like this, Britain has a similar situation. The Labor Party, like the Democrats in America, want these people and panders to them. And the conservatives have done nothing about it. The Conservative Party have done virtually nothing about it. That is why you're seeing this kind of reaction. Mr. Starmer will not do it. You're absolutely correct. He will absolutely not do it. But because of the Ukraine and because of the Middle East, and not by the Ukraine, I don't just mean Ukraine, I mean the Russian incursions into NATO territory, there are other priorities taking precedent over immigration.
True.
Yeah.
And to speak about it, we wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that, yes, Russian planes, tensions on NATO's eastern flank have spiked following Estonia has described a brazen violation of its airspace. On September 19th, 3 Russian MiG-31 jets entered Estonian territory near Vandalu Island over the Gulf of Finland. The aircrafts had their transponders turned off, filed no flight plan, and ignored radio contact. NATO scrambled Italian F-35s to intercept. This is very provocative of the Russian
Very
government.
provocative. Very provocative. On one level, if I was just to take what the media is saying, I would say that Mr. Trump is displaying, if not a weakness, certainly a naivety about Putin. Okay? Now, of course, the Democrats are saying Putin is his puppet master. I don't believe that. It would seem, however, that he is being that way. However, the other side of the coin is he's told India, if you keep buying oil from Russia, we're going to put an embargo and we're going to put tariffs on India. Don't watch what Mr. Trump always says. Watch what he does.
Yes.
He's waging economic war against Putin, for sure. But he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Mr. Trump understands. Mr. Hegseth understands. They understand that, and the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, understands the way the Soviet Union was defeated and collapsed was not by a shootout, but by economic implosion.
Economics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Trump is a businessman. He fights like a businessman. The technology given to the Ukrainians to develop a manufacturing capacity of drones, that technology had to mainly come from Great Britain and the United States, undoubtedly. They could not have developed the avionics packages without assistance from America and Britain, possibly some from Germany and France. Certainly, let's just say NATO, led by America and Britain. Okay? You realize 16 to 18% of Russia's oil and natural gas production capacity and export capacity has been crippled by these drones. That is a big, big problem. A big problem. He's having to sell his oil to China and India, not refined crude. They have their own refineries. He's just selling crude at discounted prices, but they're paying for it in Indian rupees and in Chinese yuan. He's in trouble. Trump is waging an economic war. No matter how much he dislikes Starmer ideologically, America and Britain will always have to fight together, no matter what. No matter what. The only exception I can think of was the stupidity of Dwight Eisenhower in the Suez Crisis. The stupidity of Dwight Eisenhower was an exception. I remember, despite the huge Hispanic population in the United States, when the Falklands War happened, the Americans had sided immediately when they couldn't broker a peace, they sided with the British. They have to stick together. Even when the politicians and leaders don't like each other, they know we won the First World War, we won the Second World War, we won the Cold War, and we can win the war on Islamic terror. They know that. Whether they want to admit it or not, they have to accept the historical and strategic reality. That is what is happening. The Five Eyes are going to have to stick together. No matter what you think of Abo in Australia or New Zealand or Carney in Canada, the Five Eyes are going to predominate because it's in the strategic interest of all five countries. Mr. Trump is waging war. Now, how do I know this? because the Soviet foreign minister said, we are at war with NATO. And if you're not at war with America, you're not at war with NATO. It's just that Mr. Trump is fighting it the way he knows how to fight economically. He's doing what Thatcher and Reagan did, bringing it down economically. They lost the Warsaw Pact, then they lost the Soviet Union, then they lost the CIS. The only thing left now is Russia. Putin, however, only has one weapon, and that is saber rattling. The situation is dangerous. You're getting food shortages in supermarkets now in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. The Russians have lost, get this, that the Putin government has admitted 300,000 fatalities, 1 million casualties. That is nearly the official figure. The actual figure is probably higher. But that is nearly 5 times as many people as the Americans lost in Vietnam, and 12 times higher than what the Soviets lost in Afghanistan. It's higher than the Korean War and Vietnam put together, much higher. How much longer can this go on? It's no longer only affecting rural Russia. Now it's beginning to affect the big population centers, St. Petersburg and Moscow. He's in trouble economically. He had a sovereign wealth fund. He's eroded it. The rupee, the Russian ruble, it's worth a penny. It's gone. He has no more of savings. What's he going to do now? Now, like any wartime economy, you get a temporary boost to the economy through the wartime spending. But the money has to come from someplace. Now the money has all but run out. He's desperate. And desperate people, as we always say, do desperate things. He's saber rattling, hoping that NATO will pressure the Ukraine to make concessions. Because on one hand, if he makes concessions in Russia, he's seen as a loser. On the other hand, he can't continue fighting. This situation is becoming potentially very dangerous, and it is a reason, maybe the main reason, why Donald Trump came to Britain for those meetings at Chequers.
Very interesting. Question. Let's move on to the next topic. Let's talk a little bit about the church, because we are seeing somewhat of an awakening, especially with these protests all over Europe. A lot of them are singing hymns. A lot of them are proclaiming the gospel. And we are seeing people once again kind of fascinated with the church. So let me ask a question to you, Sandy, specifically. You mentioned a couple of stories. The one that really interests me right now is the Southern Baptist Church, the SBC. They were mocking Charlie Kirk?
Yeah. This was written by J.D. Hall from Insight to Insight. I like that name. They pulled back the curtain on evangelical cowardice. James Roberson, Send Network pastor and NAMB banner, suggested Kirk got what was coming to him because he fought in a carnal way. It was not merely tasteless. It was Don Lemon or Jimmy Kimmel kind of thing to say, but saturated in evangelical pop cockery. I like that. It insulted the family of a man who had been cut down and mocked, and it mocked the God who tells us that the world will hate us because it first hated Christ. That single comment exposed the entire machinery of the Southern Baptist Convention, not because it was shocking, but because it was so predictable. For years, the SBC has excused, coddled, and promoted men who should have been corrected or removed. Amen to that. So,
that's
it's not
shocking.
surprising. Yep, it is shocking. And of course, there are others who are mocking, that kind of stuff.
Let me ask a question to you, Davey. As far as churches in Australia, This seems to be a global phenomenon that we're seeing with the SBC, where there is a sense of evangelical cowardice. I would say that we are coming to the point where most of the mainstream church would probably mock Stephen as carnal. They would mark the Apostle Paul for being carnal, for calling out certain elements like Alexander the Coppersmith.
Yeah, you're totally right, and I think you've got a good example of one person's doing with Paul at the moment later on. But yeah, look, the church here is just. I know the churches are bad everywhere. It's really hard to find a good church now. If you've got a good church, keep praying for it. Keep your pastor in prayer. Keep your elders in prayer. Even if it's just a small group, keep one another in prayer, because it's kind of like the attacks are just getting unreal, and they're getting unrelenting. And look, they are starting to wear a lot of people down. I know a lot of people have been getting encouraged by, some of the stuff they're seeing going on, and I haven't been able to share their enthusiasm, and I know they could probably think I'm a bit of a, what do you call it, gloomy Gus when it comes to that kind of thing. But unless people rend their hearts, unless people repent and turn to the Lord, and we see the fruits of repentance, we're not going to be any change. We're just going to have this, kind of false unity kind of thing.
I was a first-hand witness to the SBC, because my former church, which I left, the SBC, if you're in the Southern Baptist Convention, you have to contribute to the missionary fund, and I think there's another one. All the churches have to do that.
Yeah.
And I asked the pastor, I said, how come you guys are still contributing to these guys with the way that they're acting, and the things that they're saying, and you're not calling for their resignation? And there was no answer to that. And it's like they just, we don't want to rock the boat. Well, that's no good, because you keep doing that and nothing's going to get done,
It's the same here, Sandy. We don't have the SBC, but look, from what I've been hearing, it's the same here. And these churches are being run like big corporations. Same structure, big corporations.
Yeah.
Right.
Given Australia's political climate, Davey, could a Bible believing that's very strict and fundamental to the word even exist legally in Australia's kind of nanny state?
No,
I'm just thinking of the laws that you've passed. It's ridiculous.
Because of the laws that have been passed here, you cannot actually be a legal. If you're going to be a Bible believing church, you cannot actually do it legally, because of they're legislating prayer, what you can pray for, what you can't pray for, who you can pray for, who you can't pray for. There's so many laws and restrictions at the moment here that you cannot legally function. The true church here has to be underground to a certain degree. It is underground. You may find some good. You may find a good church, still in the denominational structure. That's going to be very rare. They're going to be very, very few. And I probably couldn't, if I was to count them on one hand, I'd still have a few spare fingers. It is kind of that bad, where they'll still preach the word faithfully and all the rest of it, but they're in danger. They are violating, laws that could actually be,
This is the way it got to be in Hawaii when I was out there. And people would say, can you recommend a church? And I literally couldn't. I could think of maybe 2, maybe 3 that I could actually recommend. It was horrible. Everything was apostate.
And I can't tell you how many times we received messages from people asking Moriel, where's a church where's a fellowship that I can get with?
Right.
It's heartbreaking, because there's so few places that we can point to and say, we know that they're solid. We know that they're not going to teach false doctrine. They're not into dominionism. I mean, pick your flavor of heretical theology, and
Yep.
that seems to be the norm rather than the exception.
Years ago, I started a page where I was going to list recommended churches in every area, and I quit it because so many of them, became traitors. They dropped off. And you can't keep up with them. All of a sudden you find out, oh, the pastor went to an emerging church thing, and he came back with an entire new plan for his church.
Yeah. We have the same problem over here as well.
I was going to go to you, Elon. So obviously you have the same problem with a lot of the NAR in Israel at this point.
Absolutely rife over here. Yeah. There's most of the big name congregations that you might read about, the big ones that are more well known in the West. They're usually charismatic or something like that as well, but they're nearly all of them either NAR affiliated or just outright NAR.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, it's and there's very. Then you've got, on the other hand, you've got the Reformed on the other side of the aisle, and you don't hear about them so much, but they suffer from, of course, all the same problems that Calvinists have.
Yep.
You get them all fans of R.C. Sproul and A.W. Pink and all that kind of crazy. Exhaustive determinism and that kind of thing, and so that actually all damages the gospel proclamation as well. I mean, there are exceptions. Yes, there are some people who are Calvinists. There are exceptions to it. You do get this. I mean, I've actually come across people. They describe their evangelism as going out looking for the what's the word? The lost sheep. The elect. They're fishing for the elect.
Yes, that's right.
And all that kind of thing. You think, oh no.
I've always had the impression that A.W. Pink moved away from the extreme Calvinism when he got older. He didn't hold it as much when he got older, I don't think. I
can't tell you enough. I can't really confirm or deny on that one. So I'm not a deep reader of Pink, really. It's not my kind of.
Okay.
Anytime you see a church, the pastor starts to use commentaries from and promote books by people like R.C. Sproul and John MacArthur and all these people, that church is going down.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
And I have been praying for Israel for many years, because I've been so concerned about how the NAR has gone all over the world and absolutely ruined churches. Yeah. They go in there and they lay hands on everybody and tell them that they're prophets and apostles, and they've messed up the church, the house churches in China, everywhere. They came out to Micronesia and ruined the mission work.
The enemy poison in Israel is called tikkun. Tikkun is the messianic version of the NAR, and it is prominent in Israel, unfortunately, but it is a lethal toxin.
It is, absolutely. And the Tikkun have been obviously they're not so close friends now, but they've been close friends with Mike Bickle, Michael Brown, all of these kind of people. Even people like Rick Joyner, they've had connections with.
Lovely.
Che Ahn, of course, is another one. Francis Chan. They're all linked with all these crackpots and false teachers. Tikkun's awful, but it's got branches all over the US as well. And though they're not very big compared with the network of Che Ahn or somebody, Tikkun do punch above their weight because they use their Israeli-based kind of status as to give themselves some street cred, But
that Che Ahn's running for governor of California, right?
Oh no!
Oh yeah, I saw that. I thought, well, which could be worse? Someone like Gavin Ponscombe and his awful leftism, or Che Ahn who talks to his dead mother. You know,
Yeah.
which one would you rather have?
I mean, I don't know. I live here, so
They're all
I kind of
nutbags, all of them,
yes.
Yeah.
and I mean, they're just everywhere,
Yeah.
and they've all been influenced by Wagner, Wimber, uh,
Yeah.
Toronto Blessing, Brownsville,
Yeah.
Bethel, all this, they're all influenced by the same people. They're all reading the same books that unfortunately most Christian bookstores sell, you know, in bulk.
Yes.
And, we challenged years ago Lifeway. We
Yeah.
checked out what they were selling and we couldn't believe some of the stuff they were selling. I mean, pro homosexual stuff, pro Mormon,
Yeah.
but we challenged them and basically their response was, well, people are wanting to buy it. So, we have to make it available for them. And I'm like, what? And I
Yeah.
went into a bookstore in Guam and I went in there and they had probably about a 6-foot section of one bookshelf that was all Benny Hinn books.
Oh,
And
God.
so I went to the manager who was a reformed, Presbyterian. And I said, I handed him a piece of paper. I said, here's the false prophecies of this guy. He claimed that all the homosexuals would be dead in the 1990s. That Castro was going to be dead in the 1990s. He's got all these false prophecies that he never repented of. And so I handed it to him. They said, okay, well, we'll check it out. So I came in about a couple of weeks later, and what they'd done is taken those books that were basically face out and they put them all together spine out. So there was more like about a foot of books.
Yeah.
But they didn't take any of the books off the shelf. They just made
Yes.
it like, I couldn't believe it.
Well, who wants to throw away money?
Well, yeah. I mean,
books are money.
that's what they're in it for. And I had a friend who was a salesman for Sparrow Records and a couple of those big CCM labels back in the day.
Yes.
And he used to go into these bookstores, Christian bookstores, and also regular record stores and bookstores. And he would go to the Christian bookstores and say, how come you guys are selling these records for like twice as much as the secular bookstore is selling them for? Because you're saying that you're a ministry. You're not a ministry. You're in it for the money.
Yeah.
So I figured that one out pretty quick.
It reminds me,
Yes.
the Christians were the first one to take all the occult books and burn them. But we are so
Yeah.
reticent to burn books today that lead. I mean, some of the doctrine of the NAR and the Seven Mountain Mandate of the Dominionists,
Yeah.
it's just as bad as the early Christians dealing with, all of the bad doctrine then.
Yeah.
Specifically, I mean, I think we need to be more forceful and not care about the money in the books.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, if they're going to be a ministry, be a ministry. I knew one bookstore on Oahu that finally got rid of all those books, all the Osteen books, all this garbage. But then they were left with very few books.
Yes.
Because, they're selling older stuff and stuff by us, but people didn't want to buy, they didn't want to come in. They lost their bookstore. So, but that's the problem we have these days. It's a big problem.
Where's
Sandy,
Yakov gone?
I believe Jacob is having some computer issues. We'll continue.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he'll be back for backstage.
Hopefully.
If not, Sandy, you get the honor of answering questions. I wanted to touch on. You mentioned Mike Bickle. He's recently in the news. Sandy, what's going on with Mr. Bickle?
Yeah. Well, he's been found to have been molesting young people in his churches, and unfortunately, now his sister, who's a false prophetess and blasphemer, is defending her brother Mike Bickle. She says her name is Prophetess Lisa, insists she's speaking on behalf of God directly, says that God has pardoned Mike for everything he's done, and anyone who's spoken against him or criticized him, they need to repent and knock it off. She readily admits she has not read the allegations against her brother, which is 17 women, including 2 minors, and will never read them or ask questions about it. Despite this, she calls them exotic trash and a false narrative. Then she says this story and stories like it should never be investigated by the church, whether it's true or not. It doesn't matter. That's a demand that secular society has placed on the church, and the church is now answering secular society about the blood of Jesus. Can you believe that? You know, we're the ones who are supposed to conduct our own court according to the Bible. We shouldn't be sending stuff to secular courts. You know, we should judge. We need to judge within the church, because someday we're going to judge the nations. We're going to judge the angels.
Obviously, the prophetess sister of Mike Bickle is not going to be a very good judge.
Oh, yes. What a liar.
But with the Bickle, with the Bickle thing, though, as well, it's not just his spiritual misdemeanors, it's criminal offenses, you know?
Yes.
I mean, if you're sexually molesting minors, that's a criminal offense, not just merely a sin.
And, you know, here he's the author of, you know, he's a big promoter of what's called bridal theology, which is actually what Sarah has been sharing in her women's Bible study on this whole thing, which is really, it's a crock. And, you know, he comes off, they sing these songs. They have these songs. I have a few of them on my site where they're basically love songs to Jesus, talking about laying with Jesus and that kind of stuff. I mean, this is blasphemous stuff, folks. And so now you see why has been promoting this stuff.
Yeah, also, he got a lot of that bridal theology things. A lot of it comes from Catholic mysticism as well.
That's correct.
You know, and it's that's why it's so creepy. A lot of it.
It's very creepy stuff. But you know, when we were watching all these tapes from one of the prophetic conferences of the NAR, these people are creepy.
Yes, they are.
Really notice it. You watch them standing on stage, and you're going, most of them are probably either homosexual or something, because they're acting very creepy. And like that one lady who's like, she's slaying this little boy, you know, and like, you know, grabbing him and kissing him and stuff. Oh man, that really bothers me. It's just creepy.
That one, do you remember that video of Heidi Baker when she's supposedly imparting a legacy?
Baker.
And the kid's screaming on the floor, rolling around in agony, and he's screaming, and she's just saying, legacy, legacy, you know. I think, whoa.
One of my favorite ones is a video that we put on the video that I did with Jacob and Mike Oppenheimer on Benny Hinn. And he's slaying all these youth on a stage, but there's one little girl who's watching it, and she gets afraid and runs away.
I'm not smart.
That says
some discernment there.
Talk to me a little bit about the Mirror Bible.
Well, I you know, I decided to go ahead and take a chance and put a video by a lady by the name of Melissa Doherty on my site. And she really has an excellent video called I'm Shocked by How Many Pastors Are Using This Deceptive Bible. It's a translation that teaches a different gospel and says that you're divine. It sounds like a bunch of theological nonsense to me, and too many leaders are teaching this nonsense to others. And she goes through and shows verses side by side from like the NASB to this Mirror Bible, and it's completely different. I mean, it's not even a translation.
Yes.
It's just, you know, it's a bunch of stuff that's made up. And I said this earlier when we were talking about this. I think that they got the idea for this from a movie that Bruce Lee wrote years ago, and I remember seeing it. It stars David Carradine, and he goes on this journey to find this book, special book. And at the very end of the movie, he finds the book and he opens it up, and it's all mirrors inside of the book.
Yeah.
In other words, you are the answer. You are,
Yeah.
you are God or whatever.
You're totally right. There's Sandy. Look, well, I first heard about it probably 10 or 12 years ago when it first came out. A lady in our home group, her best friend, actually got one of them given to her for Christmas, and it started changing her, and not in a good way, in a real bad way. And so this lady in our Bible study asked me about it, so I did some research in it, and you're right, it's all about self. It actually, not a full Bible too. It picks and chooses what books it has in the Bible. But the things I do remember for looking into it, it redefines sin as sin is failure to live up to your God-given potential. You know, all this positive thinking stuff.
Sounds like Joel Osteen or something.
Yep.
Yes.
Really dangerous stuff. And repentance is to co-know with God. It's kind of like, it's not turning from sin, you know, turning towards God or anything like that. It's, you know, to know what God knows about, you know, again, it turns it all on you. It's about self.
Yeah, apparently, I mean, I'd never heard of this Bible until today, actually, because I mean, but the guy who supposedly, I use the word translated very loosely, is a universalist. So that would explain a lot of its weirdness.
Yeah,
Jacob, am I crazy to think that with what the Mirror Bible is teaching, it sounds a lot like on the day you read the Mirror Bible, you shall be as God?
It has that element in it, but I had always thought that Eugene Peterson's The Message was the ultimate abomination. I was wrong. The Mirror is every bit as bad, if not worse.
Yeah.
Well,
just when you think we can't go lower.
I do not consider it to be a Bible.
This one and the Passion Translation are
vying
for some of the worst right now, and of course the Message. But it's just bad, you know. And but a lot of people get into it and they don't know what they're even, and they don't realize that a lot of these things are hatched up by absolute liberals. A lot of times they are from either the United Church of Christ or United Methodists or the Episcopalians or somebody like that, you know, just totally off the beam, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Sandy, what about the LGBTQ cross?
Oh, my goodness. I couldn't believe this. I mean, I figured this guy was tainted, but, you know, I ran across a story by Protestia, which says LGBTQ cross carried into St. Peter's Basilica. Pope Leo urges bishops to celebrate Pride Mass. These events are sponsored by Jonathan Tent, a pro-LGBTQ activist group dedicated to advocating for full acceptance, inclusion, and celebration of LGBTQ Catholics in the life of the church. The group is named Jonathan's Tent because they believe Jonathan and David had a homosexual relationship. Oh, what a surprise.
Good boy.
For the first time,
only said that, yes.
For the first time in history, a rainbow pride cross was officially processed into the heart of the Vatican after hundreds of LGBTQ Catholics attended Mass in St. Peter's Basilica with the blessing of Pope Leo, who personally encouraged the vice president of the Italian Bishops' Conference, Bishop Francesco Savino, to celebrate with them. More than 1,400 LGBTQ Catholics and their families have descended on the Vatican over the last week, making a pilgrimage for the 2025 Jubilee, a major Roman Catholic event celebrated every 25 years.
He sounds even worse than the last Pope, this guy.
I
thought that was difficult. Yeah.
Jacob, is this, I mean, what we're seeing, it just when you think it can't get worse, it seems like the bottom of the floor falls out, and suddenly you're looking at, this is the falling away.
It's
I don't think it can get any lower.
It's Ezekiel chapters 8 and 9. Yet
Yes.
greater
Yeah.
abominations than these will you see in the house
Yes.
of the Lord.
Yes. Well, I mean, I thought John Paul was bad enough because, when he brought that statue of, I can't remember, I think it was Buddha into the church and invited all these witch doctors and stuff to get together. That was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they canonized him as saint. He's the patron saint of pedophiles. Child molesters pray to him for protection before they violate a child.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be laughing, but that's just absurd. Uh,
And
Anyway.
Francis brought in the mother goddess from South
Right.
America
Right.
into the church.
Yeah, Pachamama,
Yeah.
Pachamama.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 Oh, they were all big Mariologists, all of them.
Finally, let's talk a little bit about the HGTV star Jen Hatmaker, Sandy.
Oh, geez. Jen Hatmaker completely denounces the church, says she may never go back. The Apostle Paul makes it clear they went out from us, but were not from us. And if they had been with us, they would have continued with us. 1 John 2:19. To abandon the bride of Christ is not a side path to the Christian life. It's to abandon Christ himself. There's no way around this truth. You cannot sever yourself from his people and pretend to cling to his person. The bride and bridegroom are inseparably joined. Reject one and you reject the other. For years, Jen Hatmaker has been a slow, steady march toward this very point. The warning signs have always been there. She was once paraded as a darling of the evangelical women's ministries. What a shock. A best-selling author, published by the SPC, publishing arm, Lifeway, a podcaster, even a brief HGTV star, yet beneath the bright veneer, compromise grew like mold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of these guys are really good writers, by the way.
Yes.
To end this section, and I just wanted to comment, if you have a question for Jacob or Sandy, please make sure to get them in. We'll do backstage in a few minutes. But before we do that, we have one last topic. Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, Paula White, has once again stirred controversy, this time praising the leader of the Unification Church, Ak Ja Han Moon, calling her called by heaven and affirming her assignment. White has appeared at Mooney events for years, but at the 2025 World Peace Summit, she further and openly joining the mission of unity, faith, and peace.
Yeah. Well, she declared that Mother Moon loves the Lord and carries such a tremendous calling of God in this earth. I mean, come on. I mean, she's been totally duped. The Moonies, man, they're one of the most duped cult ever.
Of course.
We tried to witness to those guys, and it's almost impossible. They're just like, they get angry even hearing about the blood of Jesus. They get crazy. And they came all through the islands out there. Moon came under the flagship of, I think it was like Federation for Families or something, and he was offering to build rec centers on the islands. And I mean, a lot of those places could really use them, And fortunately, at the time, we had the Queen of Kwajalein, which is one of the islands in the Marshall Islands. She was coming to our Bible studies, and she asked me, "What is this Family Federation thing?" So I looked it up, and sure enough, it was Moon. And I said, "Man, you have got to reject this because they will reel you in like you wouldn't believe with their money." And she did. She went back and said, "No, we don't want your stuff." I mean, that was a bold move on her part. I was so glad for her.
Yeah. Rima, who was a friend of Moriel and a former Moriel administrator in Japan, his wife's Japanese, and a former organizer of our events pre-COVID in England. He was in the Moonies, and he was a leader in the Moonies, and he got saved out of it. So was Jeff Brodsky, a Jewish guy from New York, and they tell me the same things. Sun Young Moon is the author of the book, The Divine Principle. He identified himself as the Lord of the Second Advent, claiming
That's
to be
right, yeah.
claiming to be the return of
The
Jesus
Messiah.
Christ.
Yeah.
Claiming to be the return of Jesus
Yep.
Christ. This did not stop Jerry Falwell from welcoming
Oh,
him
he
to
was
the
another one.
university and singing his praises as a quote unquote unsung hero. That was Jerry Falwell who betrayed Christ in that instance.
Yeah.
To take an antichrist, a self-admitted antichrist.
Yep.
Moon also said his first wife, who is now dead, is the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
This is open blasphemy, and it didn't bother Jerry Falwell, so why should it bother Paula White?
Apparently
I
not.
mean, you know, I watched the video this week of Joel Osteen saying that as far as he's concerned, Mormons are his brothers in Christ. You know what I mean? Well, you'd expect that from Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
But when Jerry Falwell did it, you know what I'm saying? It gave Moon a credibility he didn't otherwise have. And the trustees of Liberty and the professors of Liberty, none of those hirelings uttered a syllable of protest.
Well, I'll tell you, man, Moon he really had techniques. One of them was he would round up young men out in Micronesia and say, you know what, I've got a bride for you. And we're gonna do a special, we're gonna fly down to Australia and we're gonna have a mass marriage and you can come and get a bride down there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these guys got sucked in, and of course the women were already Moonies, and so he sucked them in that way. The second thing he did, and I wrote an article on it and got a lot of people mad at me, but he started a high school out on I think it was the Big Island called High School of the Pacific, and he was giving free tuition to a lot of the kids, in the islands. Just come on over. And I exposed it. I said, this is a Moon operation, man. Don't go there because you're going to get indoctrinated. And some people really got mad at me because they wanted to do this free tuition thing. But it turns out that's exactly what it was,
Yeah.
Jacob, what's the danger of having someone like Paula White, this high-profile Christian leader with government support?
She's a daughter of Jezebel. She's a demonized daughter of Jezebel, and she's personally immoral. You ever see the picture of her walking down Via Venuto in Rome with Benny Hinn when he was still married to Susan?
Walking out of a hotel.
She's an immoral woman, and she's demonized. Yeah. Anybody who will sing the praises of an antichrist is demonized.
She has said that she's a little god. She has said that was taken to heaven and saw God, and she also, with her husband, her latest husband, Jonathan Cahn from Journey, they're up he's in the pulpit with her. Okay, I mean it's bad enough that she's in the pulpit, but they were doing a thing on marriage, and they spoke up and said, if you're having problems in your marriage, I think you ought to just get some pornography and watch pornography together because that'll really help your marriage.
And just a reminder too, we're in the time of the appointed feasts at the moment. So you know what that means, don't you? That means give more money to her ministry. She's at it again that way.
Oh, sure. They all do that. Yeah. But the thing is, it bothers me, and I'm very concerned about it because she's always pawing at Trump when she's standing next to him. She's got her hand on his arm and stuff. And I don't trust that woman at all, you know? And I'm just afraid she's bringing her dominionist stuff in, probably prophesying over him, telling him that you're going to save everything, and not good.
Wasn't she the one who had herself crowned along with Ed? I'm going to get the wrong Ed Young or Ed someone, and they were carried around The church in this procession, thrones with crowns. Was that her?
I don't remember that one, but who knows? I mean, these word of faith people are so far off from any
They are.
reality.
Yes.
And, she should not be a head pastor of a church in any case.
She should not be allowed
absolutely.
in the church unless she repents.
Exactly. But she always, I mean, ever since I first saw her, she came off as somebody who's, a floozy, to tell you the truth.
Well, she's a Jezebel spirit, doesn't she?
Yeah, exactly.
We have plenty of those.
No kidding.
Well, I think that's going to do it for our show as far as the regular news. We're going to go to backstage. So please stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes, and we've collected your questions. We will be asking Jacob a lot of questions that we didn't get to last week, but also some this week, hopefully. But we want to thank you for watching, and we will be back in a few minutes. Welcome to Backstage, where we ask your questions to Jacob and we'll get some answers. So let's get started. Jacob, first question. This is one that's been on the list for a while. Rumor has it that the rehearsal heifer sacrifice was the real thing. It was announced as a rehearsal in order to avoid reprisal. What is your opinion?
Silly rumor, has no basis in fact.
Got it. Thank you, Jacob. Our next question. Who is the virgin daughter of Babylon spoken of in Isaiah 47?
She is a picture of Babylon the Great, certainly in Revelation chapter 17. The fact that she's called a daughter of Babylon means that she proceeds from it spiritually. She's in the character of it. One way to understand this is how the personality and character of Queen Jezebel was transferred, as it were, to her daughter, Queen Athaliah. It parallels that. This is not called Babylon, but the daughter of Babylon. That would suggest it is a combination of religious, political, and commercial system in the character of the Babylonian Empire, which has its own origins going back to the Tower of Babel, of course, the days of Nimrod and Semiramis. So the fact that it's called daughter would suggest strongly that it's not actual Babylon. For instance, Peter, writing from Rome, says she was in Babylon, greets you in his epistle. So Babylon is always a combination of the political, the commercial, and the religious. Ultimately, it will be a footstool of Satan that the Antichrist will use once he gets power. Then he will get rid of it. People have tried to speculate it's America or it's something else. There's no basis for that. They have no exegetical evidence whatsoever for such speculations. None.
Thank you, Jacob. It was always taught in various churches that the early church looked at Nero as being Antichrist. If so, and with persecution going on, shouldn't we be looking for Antichrist?
We should. Well, I don't understand the relationship between the question and the references to
And the
Nero.
statement, yes.
Nero absolutely was seen as a potential Antichrist. It was under his reign that Peter and Paul were both martyred. And the burning of Rome that took place under him and so forth when the Christians were blamed. He was one of the first people, if not the first, where they tried to work out the isopsephy, that is the gematria of his name, to 666. All of that is true. There is no doubt that Nero is a type of the Antichrist, as were all of the Roman emperors, particularly the deified ones. That is true. Should we be on the lookout for Antichrist? Yeah, except that there's many Antichrists. There's no shortage of them. Sun Myung Moon was an Antichrist. The Pope is an Antichrist. The question is, who will be the ultimate Antichrist and false prophet. That is what we need to be looking out for. But the Lord will reveal him in his time. He will not be evident initially.
Next question. Will we get time to warn unbelievers once we identify the Antichrist?
There will be a recognition of who he is, but shortly after his recognition as to who he is when the rapture and resurrection will take place. The rapture and resurrection cannot take place until he's identified. Again, part of the problem will be there'll be so many false Christs. What makes him different? But he will ultimately be revealed. He will take his seat in the temple of the Lord. That is the final sign of imminency. That is real imminency. When you see the abomination spoken of by Daniel set up, the Shikutza Meshomem, that is the real sign of imminency. The pre-trib people have invented their own definition of imminency that is not scriptural. Imminency that Jesus spoke of was when you see the abomination set up in the temple. That is what is that, and being able to identify 666, what it actually is and who it actually is. Those will be the ultimate signs. Should we be looking out for these things? Yeah, but realize we're not going to know until Jesus reveals him. In the meantime, there will be many antichrists and many false prophets.
All right. There's some questionable statements about Israel and Trump having something to do with Charlie Kirk's death. Can you give your thoughts on this, Jacob?
Speculative idiocy, devoid of any factual merit.
Perfect. Jacob, is the new film a companion piece to Shadow of the Beast?
No, there will be certain elements coming down perhaps, but not a lot. It's something different.
Does the man of sin know he is the man of sin?
He will know at some early point that that is who he is. Don't forget, there's two stages to him. One is when he realizes he's a son of perdition. But the second is when he counterfeits the resurrection of Jesus, Satan is cast down from heaven and inhabits him. He will become a virtual counterfeit of the incarnation of Christ at that point. So he will already be active. But at some point, he will become essentially virtually Satan incarnate.
Does the time of Jacob's trouble last 7 years? And at what point of the 7 will God's wrath begin?
God's wrath begins between the 6th and 7th seal when the faithful church is removed. At that point, God will turn his salvific purposes back to Israel, and God will deal with the nations through Israel. I don't want to get into all the dispensational arguments and things like this, but the wrath of God commences with the rapture and resurrection, with the parousia. We are not appointed unto wrath. At that point, things are going to become worse and worse for Israel. Once the church is removed, Satan is going to turn his hatred and wrath towards the destruction of Israel and the Jews. That is the time of Jacob's trouble. Hatekufat Hatzorat Yaakov. It's illustrated through Revelation 12. When the man-child is caught up and rescued, the beast goes to make war with the woman and the rest of her offspring. That'll be the time of Jacob's trouble.
All right. Thank you, Jacob.
Okay.
Next question. I've heard talk of an asteroid that is 1,900 miles away from Earth, that in 3.5 years, it will become closer in 7 years. Depending on the circumstance, could it be prophetic at all?
At some point, some kind of an asteroid is going to hit the Earth. Bill Brehm, a Christian from the Mensa organization in New York, began teaching about this from a scientific and biblical perspective in the late 1970s. At some point, that will happen. To say that this one is it, I doubt it. If it was, you would see NASA and you see everyone talking about it and focusing on it. It does not appear to be that one, but at some point an asteroid will hit the Earth.
Thank you, Jacob. Does the third temple need to be built in Jerusalem in order for Second Thessalonians to be fulfilled and Matthew 24, the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel?
The abomination has two aspects, one of which is Satan will be worshipped in Christendom after the apostasy. The church is called the temple multiple times in the New Testament using various Greek terms. Heron, oikos, hagios, naos, 7 times. At least the church is called the temple, and Antichrist will be worshipped in the apostate church. That will happen. But it would appear from a Revelation 11 that there will be a literal reconstruction of a tribulational temple, and the Antichrist image will be set up in it, yes.
Right. Another question, is Ukraine going to become the newest Afghanistan for United States weaponry?
No, because the United States was boots on the ground active in Afghanistan, and it's not boots on the ground active in the Ukraine. You may have DIA and CIA people who are former military that are there in a civilian capacity as advisors and things like this, but there's not exactly a strategic equivalence to what happened in Afghanistan, no. Additionally, Afghanistan was an internal war, was a civil war with the Taliban. The Ukraine, it's fighting an external war with Russia.
Will our resurrected bodies have access to heaven during the millennium?
No. We're on with Christ to the end of the millennium.
All right. Has anyone in the panel ever read George Mueller's narratives?
George Mueller is well known here in England. Most Christians are familiar with a lot of Christians are well familiar with his works. He was from the moderate wing of the Brethren movement who did not go along with John Nelson Darby. He'd be more like Dr. Samuel Tregales, not necessarily in his eschatology, but he'd be like James Grant. He'd be like Hudson Taylor. He would be from the sane access of the Brethren movement as opposed to the Darbyists. Well known. He was similar to Dr. Bernardino, concerned with homeless, destitute youth. He was a Christian humanitarian who took care of these kids and told them the gospel. His work was largely in Bristol. Dr. Bernardino was London, and George Mueller was in Bristol.
Thank you, Jacob. Another question. Why did Jesus instruct his disciples to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves?
Jesus complained almost that the sons of darkness are shrewder than the sons of light. We are never called to be naive. We are never called to be undiscerning. We are never called to be gullible. Never. You're up against a clever enemy who is subtle. And in order to stand in resistance and opposition to that enemy, you have to know how he thinks. How would I put this? Police detectives are trained to burglarize. Not that they're going to go out and commit burglaries, but they're going to know how burglars think and operate, okay? I have a Christian friend who works with us in RTN ministry. And he's based in England, and he has a cybersecurity company. He's paid by corporate clients to hack into their computer systems to see how wire fraud or hackers can steal data, can attempt possibly illegal cash transfers electronically. He's hired to break into your computer. He wouldn't steal a paperclip. He's a Christian, but he knows how professional hackers and how cyber thieves operate and work. But he's a Christian. We are to be the same. We are to know and understand the way Satan works with complete innocence, but we are not to be unwise as to the ways of the world and the ways of the God of this world. Too many Christians, Jesus complained, are unwise in the ways of the world. They are naive and they're gullible.
Thank you, Jacob. Have you ever heard, Jacob, of the Messianic March? When Jesus returns, he goes to Mount Sinai and then marches with the saints to the Mount of Olives.
No, the scripture seems to indicate he comes to Mount Seir in Basra area near Petra, and then to the Mount of Olives. That would be more scriptural, going from Isaiah and Ezekiel and Zechariah 12. Not that other one that you mentioned, no.
Okay.
They may be
Jacob,
confusing Mount Seir with
Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
No. All right. Thank you, Jacob. Are there demonic beings in human form and or total demonic possession of unsaved? Can they present to an unsaved individual as a spiritual warning in a traumatic event? Two questions there. Let's go with the first
one. I'm
one.
not sure I understand the question as phrased.
Are there demonic beings in human form? Are there humans out there that are basically demonic?
Okay, Paul tells us that we can entertain angels unaware. Angels can appear in human form. We see this at the resurrection of Jesus and at other times. They appear as men. The only thing demons actually are fallen angels. They're fallen angels. They have angelic power. There'd be no reason to believe that is not a possibility. But what is more common, and ultimately this relates to what some people think about the Nephilim, demonoids. But the most common way something approximating that normally takes place is through cases of demon possession.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Jacob. What did Jacob make of Colin Urquhart in England ministry? Many gifts of spirit were in operation.
I knew him kind of, and I knew about his ministry in England. It was something of a previous generation to me, but he was still around. He did not really go, the watershed in England was the Laughing Drunken Counterfeit Revival, the Toronto thing. He never completely went with it. He was sort of somewhat in the middle concerning it, but he never completely went with it. After that, I think his son took the ministry over, but we don't hear anything about him anymore. He's really someone from the previous generation.
Yeah,
And
his ministry was called
comment?
Kingdom Faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were elements in Urquhart's teaching that some of it was a little bit similar to elements you'd have heard from the Fort Lauderdale Five.
Yes.
And some other parts of it, he had elements. He wasn't as extreme as, let's say, the Restoration movement, but there were definitely elements of that in there, and a few other things mixed into a little bit of kind of sounded a bit word of faithy as well. You know, he was not out there, but he definitely, there were some problems with him. Definitely.
Yes.
It's a long time since I've dealt with the subject, because he's been dead for, he's certainly, I think he's actually died some years ago now.
Oh, yeah, he did. Well, he went to be with the Lord. But I think he would say he was a mainstream Pentecostal who treaded very close to the line and sometimes crossed it.
Yeah, I think actually, originally, I think he was a Church of England vicar, actually started out that way.
But he became essentially identified as Pentecostal.
Yeah, he was certainly charismatic anyway.
Yeah.
Will the two witnesses be present during the wrath of the Lord?
Until they're martyred, yes.
Okay. This is for the panel. Your thoughts on the inauguration of the Pilgrimage Road?
Well,
I've heard the term, but I'm not all that familiar with it.
this is that archaeological site that it begins. It's the pilgrimage way from around the Pool of Siloam up to the base of the Temple Mount, and though it's been accessible for the last number of years, it's now formally opened properly, and you can.
I've seen the stairs. I've seen the excavated
Yes,
steps.
I have too. Yeah, but it's more than just that. There's the whole thing now.
Yeah,
and so it's.
I saw a video where I think it was Marco Rubio was there for the opening.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Time in 2000 years, we've been able to walk this way.
It's not that long. I've heard of it, but it's not that. It's a walk up a hill basically. Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
it's less than a mile.
Yes, that's right. This is yeah. It's all quite fascinating, isn't it? I mean, I think this may be one of those indicators that show we're moving closer to some kind of rebuilt temple at some point.
Is because that is where the Simcha Bet Shoivah on the last day of the great feast was held, that you read about in John chapter 7. And of course, the Feast of Booths, the Feast of Booths, Hag Sukkot, is a pilgrim feast. That's why they call it that. But I'm not all that familiar with the latest.
Yeah. This is quite recent. Of course, it was only publicly formally opened when Marco Rubio was here. So, they ceremonially knocked down a special wall that they built at the entrance. So it's like the cutting of a ribbon instead of what they do with hammers. Yeah.
I've seen the steps.
Yeah. But now the whole thing's there. Might be worth having a look at.
I showed you the steps, didn't I, James?
I believe, didn't we? Yes, we were there, and I was at the bottom of the steps, and they go into the Valley of Gehenna, right?
No, they go from there, from the Pool of Siloam up the city of David to the Temple Mount.
Oh, okay. I believe you did.
Yeah.
This is all linked, of course, to the fact that they've now expanded the Siloam excavation, haven't they?
Yes.
So that's now that'd be worth visiting again, actually, now to see what's happened.
It's 85-90% excavated, the original one, but only last week they found some new artifacts in it.
Right. Yes. I'm not fully up to date with everything. I'd like to go and see the site again myself. Actually,
I think there's
worth
another
going
video.
to see.
I didn't watch this one. I did watch the one that had Marco Rubio in, but I think there is another one there where there's a woman and she's saying this is the closest she's been, like under the Temple Mount area or that kind of thing. I've seen that video, but I haven't watched it. Yeah.
This next question
is closer to the Temple Mount. These pilgrim stairs go from the Pool of Siloam near the Dung Gate, if you want to, that's what it was called, directly up to this southern Temple Mount excavations. That's where they are.
Okay.
And that's one of the places, Jesus actually walked on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jacob, how do I explain what will be experienced in heaven to my 13-year-old grandson who has fears of never growing up to adulthood with the signs of the time?
If I'm grasping the question, if I'm understanding the question, that's nothing to worry about. The sooner the Lord comes, the better off all of us will be, irrespective of our age. Growing up is no great joy in a fallen world. So if the Lord comes before reaches adult age, he's lucked out. The world is going to get worse and worse. It's the millennial reign of Christ and eternity where the joy and blessing is. He shouldn't worry about that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Last question, Jacob. Thank you for helping me get through them. What is the another beast compared to the first beast in Revelation 13:11? I can read Revelation.
One is from the
13:11
earth
too.
and one is from the sea. The one from the earth is somehow associated with Israel and the Jews. The one from the sea is associated with the Gentile nations, particularly the nations of the Mediterranean, the Roman Empire at that time. Okay?
Yeah, it describes the beast out of the earth.
Yeah, that is the one associated with Israel and the Jews. The earth has to do with Israel typologically. The sea has to do with the nations.
Right. Thank you so much, Jacob. That concludes this episode of Catching Up with Jacob. I'm going to pick on Sandy. Sandy, if you could close this out with an encouragement to the people out there. We live in some pretty crazy times, and we need to definitely be ready to encourage one another. So take it away, Sandy. Close this out.
Yeah. We need to rely on the Lord and understand that He sees everything that's going on. He's not out of control. And He will come back, and He is going to. They keep talking about saving the planet. Guess what? He's going to save the planet. We can't save the planet. We got to do one thing to do that. But when He comes back, He is going to restore things the way they should have been from the beginning, before sin came into the world. I mean, I really look forward to that. And it talks about the lion laying down with the goat, I think it is, or lamb, I can't remember. But fundamentally, he's going to change the he's going to change animals and nature. And it talks about the rocks would cry out, hey, sin affected everything, and we have messed up this world incredibly bad, and we can't fix it. We can't fix it. Only the Lord is going to be able to fix it. And so we look forward to that, and we have trust in the Lord, and we do not need to be afraid. I always laughed when they used to have these stickers on the cars that said "No fear," and I was always thinking to myself, "That's a person with fear right there." It's us Christians that need to have those stickers. We need not fear. We need not fear what man can do to us. We need not fear the demons. We need to just stick to the Lord Jesus Christ, because through Him we have the victory through the cross. And we need to stand in that victory. We need to stand in it for others. There's so many people who need help I look at all these murders and stuff that are going on because of people who are messed up. And we need to try to help them. And so that's our job, to continue in the Great Commission. I was surprised to find out that not very many Christians know what the Great Commission is. Guess what? That's our job. It's never not been our job. Our job is not to take over the world. Our job is not to take over every aspect of society and invade politics and Christianize the world. No, that's not going to happen. We know it's going to be bad before the end. But we can trust in the Lord Jesus Christ, because He's on our side. We're the ones who have the victory. So don't get discouraged. It's easy to get discouraged when you look around at this filthy world. But guess what? The Lord's coming, man. And I have this feeling He's coming sooner than we think. I think it's not too long from now. I think the tribulation is going to start pretty soon. So that's just me. I can't prove it, but I think a lot of other people, I think, feel the same way. So I just encourage you to continue to pray for the salvation of others. Pray for the persecuted Christians from many, many places in this world, particularly in Africa. I just, my heart cries out to some of those people. The Muslims are absolutely persecuting everybody these days, But stand strong in the faith. Be strong all the way to the end. And guess what? Your reward is in heaven. Build up your treasure in heaven. So that's my encouragement.
Hello, and thank you for watching Moriel TV. There are so many things that are happening at Moriel Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan to India to Africa and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.